Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Meeting's called to order. Roll call.
Mrs. Bibla,
Here.
Mr. Champy,
Here.
Mrs. Chaitora Zagoric,
Here.
Mr. Webby,
Here.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Here.
Mrs. Campbell,
Here.
Mr. Nardone,
Here.
Mr. Boone, Mr. Macri.
Here.
9 members present.
Executive sessions were held after the board meeting of August 21st regarding contracts, personnel actions, and pending litigations. We'll be seeking the approval of the treasurer's report for July 2025. I make a motion that for voting on that. Do I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Champy,
Yes.
Mrs. Chaitora Zagoric,
Yes.
Mr. Webby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell, Mr. Nardone, Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Macri.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We'll be moving into the voting session. I want to remind the public, your testimony is limited to 3 minutes. This is a special meeting, so questions, comments regarding agenda items only. Please come to the podium, state your name and address before doing so. Financial planning, Mr. Nardone.
Thanks. I'll be seeking a motion to approve items 1 through 5. Do I have a motion?
Rick, there is a typo on that, item
there is.
1.
I meant to bring it up. The
Yeah.
typo on the FNCB versus Peoples.
Peoples,
Right,
yes.
It's Peoples Bank now. They're, oh, yeah. Any questions from the board, except for that? None? Any questions from the public? On items 1 through 5? There being none, I'll seek a motion.
Motion.
Second.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Champy,
Yes.
Mrs. Chaitora Zagoric,
Yes.
Mr. Webby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Nardone,
Yes.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Macri.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Human Resources, Mr. Bibla.
I'll be seeking a motion of items 1 through 13. Any questions from the board? Questions from the public?
I'm sorry, I missed an agenda item here. I'm Bill Kane, Crestwood Education Association. I just want to clarify item number 5. Is that, I'm thinking this MOU was already approved. Is this approving the check? Or is this a different MOU than the one approved at the last meeting?
Are you talking under financial planning?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
No, that's okay. That MOU is the one that we discussed regarding volleyball.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Matthew Van Stone, 13 Schmitz Road in Wapalapin. I'd like to inquire with the board about the procedural perhaps misstep here to forego a working session regarding the job descriptions, role changes, and org charts on today's agenda. It was only upon public concern at the last meeting that these documents were made available to the public, and now a board with several lame duck members is attempting to call a special meeting today with the bare minimum public notice to try and force these position and pay changes without the appropriate public review. Upon reviewing these job descriptions that were posted, there appears to be significant redundancy between the assistant to the superintendent and principal roles, as well as potentially with the superintendent position. And when assessed in tandem with the org chart, this would also open a vacancy for the Fairview principal. So in looking at all this, if you combine the $10,500 raises for both individuals at the current Fairview principal, and another $5,000 for the Title IX coordinator, we're looking at more than $140,000 of administrative salaries alone that will be changing immediately before the school year. Without the proper working session, there's not appropriate input on how these funds are being spent. For example, the redundancy and responsibilities for these roles among the principals and the superintendents would spur questions about whether this additional administrative spend is truly necessary for the function of the district this school year. Meanwhile, on today's agenda, there's a proposal to hire a paraprofessional for $19.49 an hour. That's not to exceed 5 hours a day. At 162 school days, that's an annual salary of $15,786.90. So one can only question whether $130,000 of administrative salary funding would be better spent on hiring more paras, or maybe offering premium rates for paras to improve an area lacking like special education by improving turnover. I think public opinion would largely agree that a wiser spend of administrative salary funds in a budget-challenged district would be a wiser spend than providing raises to people who make $111,000 a year, $101,000 a year, and $97,000 a year. Without the proper process of a working session, appropriate input cannot be solicited to answer these types of questions. It contributes to the lack of transparency that's frustrating taxpayers, and only appears as if a lame duck board is trying to give certain people raises under the guise of newly created redundant positions. So with that, I have two questions for the board, and I would like the board to answer. Can you provide an explanation on why there was no working session on these positions?
I'll answer. I don't find any of this funny. I got to be honest with you. I don't find any of it funny.
If you can address me and not the others, thank
I'll
you.
be honest. I feel this should have been discussed in a work session. I think this should have been brought up, and the flow chart and the addition of these positions. I do agree with you, and I'm not arguing with you one bit. And that's something we discussed. I know I have discussed it with Ms. Malazzo. I feel it should have been discussed. I've asked that. Even though we are all agreeing to vote on it today, I still think it should be discussed in the future. As far as adding another administrator, we have discussed this for months, if not years. It was even brought up during the tax vote, that agreement of us coming together on a tax number was that we wanted another administrator brought onto this school. We are way too short in administrative staff. And I think things are falling through the cracks. So as far as should there be a work session, as far as breaking up these duties and discussed, I agree with you, you're right. But this is not slipping in that we wanted another administrator. This has been discussed for a very long time.
So-
And you can look back, I know the tax videos, it was brought up very specifically.
I'll add to that commentary. The last board meeting, Nancy Remission brought some information into our view. So recognizing, it's good to challenge, it's good to have another set of eyes look at stuff, but those work sessions historically I was not involved in the level of detail, because as a board member, I'm looking from an overview and oversight perspective, not an operational perspective. So fundamentally, I recognize that we are short-staffed. There's a lot of people that wear a lot of hats in this organization. Things do fall through the cracks, but there is absolutely no intention or desire to be anything less than transparent. And you can see we're having a special meeting because of some information that Nancy brought up at the last meeting. So yeah, let's get it out there. No issue there. And I find it hard to understand why anyone would think that as a lame board, we're looking to get people more money or salaries. If they're not justified and not needed, we wouldn't have the kind of spirited discussion we have at executive meetings about this.
So,
So I really, I think it's unfortunate that the perception is that somebody wants somebody else to make more money than they deserve. The salaries are discussed, the positions are discussed, and as a board, we agree on whatever we decide to agree on. And let it up to the administrative staff, the superintendent, and the principals to really figure out who needs to be adjusted, what should the org chart look like, and when should it be implemented. And this hoopla about the org chart, I agree it should be up there, but that's just a plan. During the course of any year, things happen and org charts change. It's nothing but kind of a direction. It's not cast in concrete or locked in stone. So I really have a hard time understanding, and I made this analogy to one of the board members. I said, if you're going to Florida, you get at the airplane in a Volca, you're flying to Orlando, and you're supposed to go through Virginia and North Carolina, South Carolina, and they're having storms, the pilot gets to change direction, even though he had a flight plan. That org chart is nothing but kind of an overview of what we would like to do, but somebody quits, somebody dies, it changes. It can change, as can the job descriptions. So I'm not going to answer the job descriptions specifically because, this question is there might be some overlap, and that's true. But enough of people put enough of thought into that to design it the way it's designed, and if there's issues, bring them up. I mean, that's why we're posting it. I was very happy to see Nancy comment on transparency at the last meeting.
thank you.
But we're trying to, address that and fix it now.
Thank you. And I think that is a good lead into the second question. So policy 301 for new positions states that for new positions, it requires supporting rationale and data. Can anyone on the board share if that rationale and data was shared with you?
Okay. As we looked at it, we do know the administration's very lean. We were asked many things of very few people, and we're trying to make sure that all the responsibilities are covered to make sure the students are getting the best outcome. And that's what's put forth. Again, we're not managing the day-to-day. We had a recommendation brought to us. That's what we're voting on today.
It was a yes or no question, though. Has anyone on the board seen the data and rationale for these new positions in accordance with policy 301? I'm sorry, Ms. McCurdy, could you speak that into the microphone?
I have not seen it. That's
Thank
all.
you.
Can
I
you
asked the
describe
board
what
to respond.
data that you're referring to? Because the board received the organizational chart, the board has received the job descriptions, they know the reasoning, so I would hope that the other board members would share that this discussions that specifically I've had with the HR committee discussing the needs for the district, and that's all I can say, because you asked the board that question and they have to answer it, but I can say that I have provided them the information and the reasoning behind why we need to focus on education for our students. And this path and plan, yes, is my recommendation, but the board has been involved, specifically the HR committee, and every board member has received the same packet that was put online about the reasoning and why the district needs to focus on education for
Thank
our
you.
students.
Thank you. I addressed the question to the board, though, and I think we got an answer.
The HR committee has discussed this at length.
Have you seen data and rationale to justify the positions?
I've seen the overwork of people. I've seen the organizational chart change over year to year. We keep getting smaller. When we decided what tax increase to do, this was the plan, to relieve some of the duties, to make principals be able to be principals, and the higher admin be able to do some of those higher level jobs.
So still not a yes or no answer, so.
The answer to your question is yes, because what was been described is the data pertaining to the expanse on a new role or not. We looked at what our current administration was required to do and the time they had to do it, and that was explained to us. And when the current administration couldn't be in 3 places at one time, but we were asking them of it, we knew That's the data that says we need to expand our administration at this point. And the district's on much better financial ground than it was 2 years ago, when we asked our administration to be very lean and wear many hats because we did not have the money to expand or replace people.
So I appreciate the responses. I think you can understand why the lack of a working session raises these questions. These are things that should be available to the public, and the fact that they're not is disappointing. So I appreciate the feedback. I don't think you can criticize the public for asking these questions if the proper procedure is not followed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Stephanie Weber, 10 Chelsea Drive in Mountaintop. It's okay. We are allowed to have our own opinions. I do laugh at some of this because I have been in the district for 8 years, and there has been a lack of transparency the entire 8 years. Following up on Matthew's questions, I work in healthcare, and we have to have data, plain and simple. Where is the data?
What do you mean by data?
Like
Describe data.
physical numbers, papers to show us,
Of budget.
like a budget. Where
How much
are
this is gonna cost?
where are
Okay.
actual numbers to say that the superintendent needs assistance? The vice principals cannot do
So
their
what
jobs.
numbers show
Over
that?
time,
What numbers show that the
that's not my
superintendent-
job, that's your job.
I don't understand how a number shows that someone's having difficulty getting work done.
If-
That's what I'm asking.
For
What
instance, if you're in
numbers-
healthcare and it says that you need then to hire X amount of physicians to come in
Mm-hmm.
because you're needing additional staff, they can run metrics, numbers to show that information. That's what you should be able to
Those
do in a
metrics
healthcare,
run,
in a
the metrics
setting.
run the amount of money the doctors will then bring in to cover their salary.
But
That's
you
what
can
those
also
metrics are.
show it that you
our
need more personnel.
Our principals do not bring in money. They do better care for our students. We have more paperwork that needs to be done by the state. If you look at the amount of paperwork that needs to be done just for a student to graduate that needs to be brought into a state, have I seen all that? I have. I've sat for over an hour
Then it
being
should be
shown-
made available to the public.
Okay,
Where is it?
so
That's
I-
what we as the public deserve to know.
And I do agree there should have been a work session, and I think a lot of this could be broken down. But as far as you asking to see numbers, I don't see how numbers fit into education.
Because we
with
can
these
then, as the
positions.
public, also say and come to this meeting and show, hey, this doesn't make sense. Right? It does. Otherwise, you telling us you have the information, what does that ultimately mean? Us as stakeholders paying taxes.
But all those months we've talked about that we're too lean and
Where?
measured. Here,
I
here,
listen to
here.
almost every board meeting.
Then-
This has never been
Oh my gosh,
discussed.
then you are not listening close enough. We have discussed
It
needing more
wasn't discussed in a
administration.
committee meeting. It was
Work
this.
session. This is Mr.
This is
Mr.
my
Nardone
time.
himself-
This was not discussed at the last committee meeting. This randomly showed up on last week's board meeting.
I'm talking about our need for more administration.
Correct. This
Right.
was not on last committee meeting.
But, no, you're right, and I'm not arguing that. I'm saying, but we've discussed it for months, if not years, that
No,
we
you
need,
haven't.
yes, we have.
You haven't.
Yes,
So
we have.
the next question I have.
You could pull up the tax
For
meeting.
each
Mr.
individual
Nardone
board
brings
member,
it up.
I would
It's
like to
on-
know
it
what
was on
input
YouTube,
you
and could
had
look it up.
about these additional assistants to the superintendent. I would like each board member to answer this question.
I'll answer it. I've called Natasha a number of times. I met with Barry Boone. I met with Anna, and I met with Ms. McCordy. And I have a thought that this organization is so understaffed that we need probably $300,000 over the next probably 2 to 3 years to get it up to a reasonable amount where administrators can spend the time they need doing their job rather than running from point to point to point because they got to get this document in. They have to attend this meeting. They have to meet with this parent. They don't have the time to do it. So you ask yourself, which one of all of these tasks do you want to fail? Because nobody can do it all. I don't remember, but aren't we lower administrator per student in the 504 school districts? Aren't we way down the bottom? We're pretty skinny on that, right?
Administrative cost per ADM, which is enrollment, we're very low. Yes.
And that data's been presented
Yeah,
numerous
I don't
times
know.
at our request.
I don't know.
You said, no, you had said it was 498 out of 500.
Now, the 498 out of 500 was total cost for ADM. The admin, and that dropped actually to 480 over the last couple of years.
I actually
The
asked
admin one,
every
I don't
board
know.
member. Thank you.
I've talked to just about every board member about this. I've talked to Mrs. Milazzo. I agree with this recommendation.
I've spoken with several board members, Ms. Milazzo, about, this is something I've approached her on as well. I did feel the need that folks are stretched too thin, even from some of the comments from the public, asking how many hats is Jack Dean wearing, for instance. That's kind of where that thought spurred. So yes, I've spoken as well.
To have our superintendent act as head of building and grounds, I don't know of another school district in the state that asks their superintendent to do that. That's how shorthanded we are, and we have to take some of those duties off of her to make it through the day.
Just to add on to all the comments that have already been made, we've all experienced all of these things. During one of our last safety meetings, we were also talking to one of the principals, and we asked, what do they need? One of the primary things they said was they need help in administration because they're overwhelmed. So we want our principals to be able to focus on the good of the students, take care of what they need to take care of as being student-oriented. So if they're overburdened with an administrative aspect, it takes away from their capability to do that. So that was one of his leading things that he wanted.
Having the leanest administration is not a bragging point. These people have way too much on their plate. Stuff is going to fall off. You chase too many rabbits, you're going to lose them all. It's not effective. It's not a thing to be proud of. We need more administrators in order to be effective.
Still have two left.
I've talked to
3 left.
7 other board members individually. I've been here for almost 4 years. We've talked about how lean our administration is. Mr. Nardone, for at least 6 months, brought up how he wanted to make sure it was budgeted for. We certainly tasked our administration to bring recommendations to us. From my perspective, it's certainly important to have the new structure in place for the beginning of the school year, so we're not switching midstream. I think the data has been out there. It's been discussed over several meetings, many meetings over several years. So I'd say yes, and I'm not one to support spending more money. I'm certainly the one that would fight for the lower taxes or less spending, but this is a need. So I agree with this.
While I do agree that our administration is thin and we could be doing better for our students if we had more, and I have had some brief conversations with other board members about this. I would like to have more conversation on these items before we vote on them.
I agree, Lauren. Thank you. And one more, please. 2 more, sorry.
What, I thought I answered. What did you need?
Oh,
from
no.
me? What are you missing?
She's a
Oh,
solicitor.
my apologies. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Steph Nivert, 716 Ice House Drive in Mountain Top, or in New Angola. So I did want to point out that your job description that you're voting on, just for the job description, you have some errors. So you might want to check that in the Fairview Elementary job description. So you just might want to review that because
Actually, Ms. McCurdy mentioned that to Ms. Otero, and that's been corrected. So thank
Okay.
you for that.
Great, because that still said Rice Elementary on the one that was posted.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but I agree with the sentiments of everything that has been said. I guess my questions, if you say that you've been discussing needing another administrator, why are we doing 2 administrators at the same time? Like, why aren't we, why didn't we just hire the grounds, somebody who's the director of grounds? And I also just have questions. I guess I'm just really trying to understand why school districts that are of similar size do not have as many administrators as we are now suggesting in the organizational
You're
chart.
backwards. We have the lowest number for schools in our classification of
I understand
administrators.
that you are saying that, but I talked to school board members from Abington, I've talked to school board members from Dallas, from Central Columbia, from Hazelton, and I got an idea of the numbers and the amount of administrators that they have and the roles that they're doing, and I understand that we need administration to help, but for parents who have children whose needs are not being met in the classroom, it's very hard to see you spend money on more administrative roles and not on the people that need to help our kids in the classroom. So I love the people that you're hiring or that, are moving into these roles, and I think that they're wonderful, effective people, and the two, Mr. Sayre and Mr. Gorm, have been the only principals that have made a difference in my kids' lives. So I think that, they are great, and I don't want to take anything away from them, but administrative roles are not helping the kids in the classroom. You don't have programs to support children with dyslexia. You don't have programs to support children with auditory processing disorders. You don't have that here in Crestwood. You don't have paras to help them. Every time I go to a meeting, I'm told, we don't have the resources to do that. We can't do that. My children, the teachers in the classroom, are supposed to somehow figure out a way to do a 5-minute read, and that's supposed to help my child with dyslexia. A 5-minute read a day with a teacher. And normally, it ends up not even being that teacher because they don't have time, and it's another student. And that is what my tax dollars are being paid for. And then I see you spending money on administrative positions, which I understand that you might need them, but I just feel like this feels, I know it doesn't feel rushed for you because you feel like you've been having a lot of work sessions on it, but it feels very rushed to me when the needs of the kids in the classroom are not being met. Elementary kids don't have library. There's, music. Nobody has language anymore. Like when my son was in elementary school, he had language, introduction to languages from the high school that would come down. That's not happening anymore. His language was taken away in 8th grade. It's no longer offered in middle school. These are things that kids and the students or in the district really would benefit from. And I feel like adding more money to administration in general, when you look at health care organizations or anything, it's adding fat. It's adding a lot of extra layers of roles, and things don't get done. If you research organizations and making them nimble, it is to trim the fat and have less levels of administration, and you're adding levels of administration. And that might be helpful, and they might be overwhelmed, and I understand that, but from the tax-paying parents in the district, our kids are not getting what they need on a day-to-day basis. So I don't understand why you couldn't have a work session on this to involve the community and help the community understand and come to agreement. Like help us to help, to support you instead of having this, fight and argument every single time there's a meeting. I hope everybody wants the best for their kids and for the kids in this district and for our kids to be successful. So you can answer the questions. I feel like most of the answers that I get are going to be the same as that I've already heard, but I wanted to share how it feels for kids that have needs that are not being met in the district while you guys are spending more money on administrative positions.
Ms. Diver, I want to thank you for sharing your feeling or what's going on with your student with dyslexia, and that's a powerful thing for you to be vulnerable to share what's going on with your student. If I may have your phone number or an email, Ms. Otero, if you can leave it with her, I'd like to talk to you more and hear about what resources your student needs.
A Wilson's program. Any kind of a Wilson's program.
Yeah. So, and
And
anyone
it's
that
not
is
my student, it's every student in the district with dyslexia.
Okay, and I'd love to hear more about that. So if you want to share information with her, anyone that's here tonight, I did mention at the last meeting that I am doing a seeking applications from the community to hear more about things like you just mentioned, so I can hear more about that, learn more about it, and understand what's going on. And I just started that, and the applications are due September 15th. I can get that to you because I want to hear more about it. We did share recently with the language. I just want to share that with you. The elementary will be starting an exploratory language in all of our elementary students, K through 6. I did a whole presentation about the foreign language. And then progressively into 26, 27, you are 100% correct. In 8th grade, they had the world language. Part of my plan in 26, 27 is to bring that back. So I hear so that I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not.
Yeah, my children missed out on it.
And I understand.
My children missed out on it.
And I'm sorry for that. But the budget and the
They're
cuts that we had to
learning,
make.
their learning time for their brain when they really should have had an introduction to language, they did not have it because the school district let them down.
And I'm so sorry for that with the budget, and some cuts had to be made, and that's some of those tough decisions. But we are correcting those as funds become available. And I just wanted to share that with you, that I hear you, and that is the direction that we are going to be looking into that in 26, 27. But for this school year, elementary is going to start that exploratory language K through 6.
And I'm sorry to take up time, but you did mention the budget. And I just have a lot of uneasiness. Like, you guys feel good about, like, the teacher contracts are going to happen, and like you're able to make all these decisions without having the teacher contract settled and without having money from the state? You guys feel good about moving forward with all of these changes still?
I'm not going to comment on contract negotiation. I don't think it would be appropriate for me to do
Right,
that.
but you're making decisions, you're making financial decisions for the organization. You say you're in a good place for money, and I just feel like there's a lot up in the air as far as money goes right now, because nobody knows what they're going to get from the state.
I will share that the items on here are not affecting any kind of contract negotiations for our teachers.
Would they be affected by the amount of money that we would get from the state?
Sure, if we get nothing, but every decision relative, at least to this topic matter, is a function of, you have to move forward. You can't wait and not move forward. You have to do a risk-reward.
50% of the districts in the state have decided not to.
There's something to be said about making decisions that need to be made and not waiting until it's convenient to make them, because dynamics happen in the meantime. So we looked at all that. We looked at, should we make the decision now? Should we call the shot? Should we wait? I think that's a reasonable question, and I think it's a reasonable response to recognize that we don't work in a perfect world. There's always going to be, we should have waited, we shouldn't have done this. But you do the best you can with what you have at the time you have to call a shot. And you call the best shot you can, after reasonable discussion with everybody.
So we have your word that there's not going to be a tax increase because of these decisions today if the state decides not to give us the money that we thought we were going to get?
We're no, the tax.
It's done.
It's done.
It's done, yeah.
It's done.
We're locked in on that.
Okay.
Hello, Justin Mirilovich, 504 Fairview Parkway. So it sounds like from the board's responses on everything that these changes to the organizational chart and the new positions are pretty much finalized. So under number 6, since this was probably discussed many months ago, if not years, of having additional personnel, with Mr. Sayer moving up into this position, with the new appointment, how is the district and Mr. Sayer plan to support teachers in regards to the new Arts and Humanities class that was presented in August 14th meeting to meet the state standards?
So I will say that Natasha Malazzo, That is my passion. That is my new program that I instituted for the elementary, and of course, with the board here support. So we've had meetings already. Mr. Sayer and actually Mr. Mangini has sat with the art teachers that are teaching those classes, going over those standards. And I briefly talked about that presentation. Was that June? What month are we in now? No, August. It was just last meeting that I'm sorry, all the days kind of go together. But I shared a little bit about what the program and already what the planning has done. They are required to meet the arts and humanities standards. They will be provided professional development. Some of our in-service day agenda is allowing for PLC time, where all of the staff, including Ms. Lovett and Ms. Zanoski, where they're able to talk about the language piece, the art piece, going over the standards, who's doing what, where are we at, because it's important to me that continuity between Rice Elementary and Fairview Elementary. I want to make sure that both groups of students are receiving the same type of education. Granted, let the teachers have freedom, within their classroom. But they've already started those conversations. Happy to say that Rice Elementary didn't have a kiln. They now have a kiln. We are looking into getting that hooked up with the union, with the maintenance to see if that's something that they can do. But now that equity between both buildings, they'll be able to both use the kiln, which is very exciting. So to answer your question, it is something I'm very passionate about, which Mr. Sayer's passionate about, but also Mr. Mangini is passionate about, that there's going to be a lot of focus to ensure that that class is ready to go and supported.
I appreciate that, and I reviewed the video multiple times, and there are 4 areas. When will we be able to see the curriculum for that? Because I would like to know what my son is being taught in these classes, and I haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, so the guidance that we give to our teachers is here's the standards. I'll be happy to email you the standards that they're required. But as far as like the lesson plans, the details, things like that, that's pushed out from the teacher. I don't have access to that. I haven't asked for it. All I have is the high level detail when they all sat together, what quarter they're going to go over with this, how many days is that going to take. That's been shared with me. And I can ask the teachers if that's something that they're comfortable sharing, because it's their information between the two of them. But I can email you the standards that they're going to be following.
I would appreciate that.
Could you leave your information with Ms. Otero?
I will do that, yes.
Okay.
Next question is for number 8 with the organizational chart. So as a concerned parent, and by the administration's lack of personnel or man hours, however you want to call it, that we're moving the person, Mr. Sayer, up to this position, when does the district plan to hire a new principal for Fairview Elementary?
So the plan, if the board would approve this, we are going to go for a full posting. So there will be a posting shortly after the meeting, most likely after Labor Day. We are going to then, go through the interview process. The HR committee or whoever board member would like to be a part of that, go through the interview process. I'm not sure how long that process will take. It depends on the candidates and if they're the right fit. Could be as early as September on an agenda, could be October. It just really depends on the applicants that we receive. At that point then, typically if you're a principal currently, they potentially could have a 60 or 90-day hold on them. So in the interim, Mr. Sayer will be, full acting capacity of the Fairview Elementary principal, and then we'll be supporting and guiding that and mentoring that principal, getting them up to speed with the day-to-day function of a Fairview Elementary principal.
And what is the salary range for the principal?
It just would be based on experience.
Okay, so what is the salary range? There
Yeah.
has to be a range that you're
Sure,
looking for, or a low number.
Yeah, I can say, based upon an Act 93 agreement that would be on our website right now, or just in the past can be anywhere between $90,000 and $100,000. Could be up to 107. It just really depends on the experience, that they have.
And has this been budgeted? a new principal, a new
So we have
person?
allocation for administrative costs with that, depending on how much and when they would get hired. Some of it, yes, may be in the budget, and maybe all of it. It just depends on the timing for that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Dr. Megan Vello-Zorzi. I'm a parent. I live in at 5 Hawk Lane, and I'm also a clinical psychologist. And I want to speak on two fronts. One is, as a parent, my son Miles attends this school and is in the gifted program. And in the time that he's been here, he went from having a dedicated teacher, Mrs. Cloaker, who was fantastic, to a teacher that rarely met with him. Who had to do a dual role, who had to teach in the classroom and then be able to attend to him. I understand that his special needs are different than a child that's dealing with dyslexia or ADHD or another learning disability, but they are important nonetheless. And I personally have had to supplement his education. I had to start my own Lego League in order to help him learn about engineering, because I approached the school didn't even get back to me about doing that years ago. So on that front, I just want to make clear that I agree with what Steph Divert said, that the needs of kids with special needs in this district, I don't think is being met. So I just want to go on record saying that. And then as a clinical psychologist and owner of a business that deals with kids from all different districts, I have to say many parents understand that this district does not meet their needs. We'll ship kids to other districts in order to get the services they need, for instance, with autism. When children are spending time on buses way too long than they should be because they're going to Dallas or they're going to Hanover or they're going to Hazleton. So I just want to make clear that I understand the need for administration. I run a company. I need that. But I also understand the importance of service for kids and meeting their needs. So I just wanted to go on record saying that. And I was wondering what steps you're going to take in order to make sure that all the kids' needs are met this year for special needs, because I know this was a big issue around the time of the election.
Ma'am, that's a great question.
Sure.
But at this meeting, it needs to be an agenda item.
Okay.
Please,
So the agenda
please
is...
return to a
Sure.
committee meeting or the next voting session when
Absolutely.
non-agenda items can be brought up. I would also encourage you to call your child's building principal and discuss it with them, or
I
try
have
and
done
make an
that
appointment with
and do
Ms.
special
Milazzo.
needs. So the concern is here that we're putting money into administrative costs instead of into service for children. I believe that's what people are saying in the back. For instance, with the Wilson method. I have a good friend that goes to Berwick. They have the Wilson method there. He's doing fantastic with his dyslexic services. So I just saying that is related to the agenda. Okay. All right, thank you.
Hi, Nancy Romanishin, Ice Harvest Drive, Mountaintop, Pennsylvania. I have over 20 years' experience in special education, and I am appalled by this new organizational chart. And had we had a work session, I would have loved to have this discussion with not only the board members, but also I do believe the administrators should be here to have these discussions as well, because working in 7, 9 districts I've worked in over the course of my career, the building principals are part of the program for special education in each building. And I'm sure Ms. Bisbal understands that it's because she's in special education, but that is core to a special education teacher and this field. You have now taken the special ed supervisor and put her down. I feel like you're kind of shoving special ed in the corner, and again, maybe that's not the intention, but it feels that way to someone who's in special education. Because now you have her under 2 different people. How effective is that? Let's think about that. She has to now come up with programs to go, I'm going to go to Kevin Sarah for one program, I'm going to go to John Gorham for the other program. That's not appropriate for special education. The supervisor, if anyone doesn't understand that here on this board, I would be happy to talk about that, again, at a work session, because that's what a work session is for us to have comments about the concerns that we have. You're pushing this through, and you think this is okay to push this through, but do you understand you're hurting children? This hurts children by separating the special ed supervisor to be under 2 people. Ms. Milazzo, I would think that you want to take that on. You're so passionate about the arts and humanities. How are you not passionate about taking care of our special ed program? That should be front and center for you based on how we're handling our special ed programs right now. I mean, parents have come to me and told me stories that would be appalling to anyone. And by the way, if I share them here, would be so disturbing. I can't even talk about how much they break my heart. To students here in Crestwood. And now you're taking special ed supervisor and putting her here, away from you? Are you doing something to, do you not understand special education? Which again, if you need help with that, I would be happy to help with that. I would be happy to give up my time to help you understand special education, because I've done it for over 20 years, and I'm very passionate about it, and I've done it in 7 to 9 different districts. So the fact you've done this is incredibly disappointing, and I would urge again the board not to vote on this, to have a work session to really talk about this. The data, you're asking data? As a teacher, I have to gather data for why I have a goal for a kid on an IEP. Data is surveying the teachers. Do we survey teachers and faculty to see what the needs are from their perspective? Was that done? Because again, I haven't seen any of that data. I'd love to see if there was a survey from teachers or faculty or staff to show where the deficits are, and I understand, trust me, I believe that there is administrative needs, 100%. But again, there's more student needs than there are administrative needs right now. Based on what I have heard from testimony from parents, you should be ashamed if you vote this through right now, based on pushing special ed down even further. You're literally putting it under a rug. Do you see that? Does anyone see this here as board members? I am really upset about this.
Ms. Romanishin, I want to share that you claiming that I don't care about special education students is completely unfair and false.
Perception of this organizational chart.
And everybody has their right to perceive the document the way that they, as they see it. I look at it differently. I'm looking at Miss Moran will have more of a support with her by people she can get a hold of a lot faster than getting a hold of me. Instead of me having 11 direct reports, I now will say only have 7. And just because the organizational chart shows the line to 2 assistant 2 superintendents does not mean that my relationship working with the students in special education at Rice Elementary or Fairview Elementary, my job is actually going to be allowed to be out more with the community, be out more with those students, attend more IEP meetings by allowing me to this organizational chart. This will free me up to be more engaged, because that is most important to me, is being more engaged with the students. So I know what you're saying, but I'm looking at it as a different path where, maybe she does need more support. Maybe our families do need more accessibility to their administrators. And I'm saying by allowing this, she wasn't dropped down. She's still equal to, Mr. Mangini, which is, in that same level. All I did was recommend to the board to have her go to 2 people that she was working with already on a daily basis. Now I'm able to be more open, be a part of more meetings. So that is the purpose of the change with the 2 direct. But
I'm going to
there's
interrupt you there because, again, she already went to those 2 principals. Principals already are,
And to me.
Their requirement is to work with the special education programs
And
in
me.
each school.
And me.
No, I understand that, but here's the difference. What the superintendent's role is, my understanding is, you're the CEO. You're in charge of the programs. She needs help with you creating the programs, not you coming to an IEP meeting. I don't need you at IEP meetings. I need you creating the programs that we've lost here, by the way.
And
You
that's
have
what we're
lost
creating
programs.
together.
You're shipping students out, which is costing the district. Let's talk about the numbers that you're spending on the district kids leaving the district that should be taken care of in district. That's what if you talk to any other district, the supervisor or the special ed director creates programs. I've talked to past supervisors of special education, actually directors of special education that worked here. I was told you weren't interested in any of those programs. That's what they were telling me. That's incredibly disappointing that you're not interested in hearing what a special education director idea is for programs for our district, because supposedly you have more knowledge. Now, again,
that's not even true, because we're doing
my experience. Let me
Right.
finish. Here's my problem. Having separate 2 people. Think about this. What if Mr. Gorham says one way and it's not appropriate? The direct line chain of command should be the special ed person should go directly to you, not to two separate people. So again, I think that there is a need for administrators here. I don't argue that. I have a problem with this organizational chart, how it's set up right now. And I think we should have a work session to truly discuss it. Separate from that, I have other questions in regards to why are we doing this when there is no state budget passed? We don't know that there couldn't be a compromise on the Republican side that says, we're not going to give you as much money as we said we were going to. Who is that going to impact? It's going to impact the district. Number two, you have no teacher contract signed. We don't know what's going to happen there. That is a variable. And I know Mr. Ardone says, oh, we have to just can't wait any longer. No, these are public funds. This isn't a private company that I take a chance and a risk. I own a company. I take risks all the time. That's how I've been successful. But this is public money and public trust. You all have fiscal responsibilities and fiduciary responsibilities to the public. How are you doing this when the state budget's not passed? These are variables. They're not set. We don't know for sure. And then, it's my understanding none of these items were in the budget, because I've come to all the budget meetings, and I didn't see them in the budget. Tommy, can you answer, are these salaries in the budget?
In the administrative compensation budget in the meeting in June, that's when we discussed it publicly. We did budget $50,000 plus the associated PSERS, Social Security, and Medicare costs. That's incremental in the budget for administration. That's what was passed.
So because I was at that meeting, I didn't hear anything discussed about these positions. Again, would have been a great time to bring this up to the public and had real conversation. I hope you can understand how this looks negatively on this board, that we're not pausing for a moment. What is the harm in pausing this to have a true work session in 1 month from now? Or frankly, not doing anything, as I think Mrs. Divert said, other districts are not doing anything until the state budget is passed. These are fiscal responsibilities of this board, and I don't take it lightly. I mean, I read what your job duties are as a board member, and the duty is on the fiscal part. If you knowingly know that there is a variable here, why are you voting for this is what I want to know. I just want to know why you're voting when you know there's two variables, teacher contracts and no state budget passed.
I have a question for you.
Well, wait, let me interject right here, please. Well, that same variable that you bring up was right there in June when we voted on the budget, because we had no idea what the state budget was going to be. We took a guess. They threw a dart on the board and said, this is how much money, and we made a budget around it. It's the same thing that we're doing here, but we're staying within that budget because we allocated more money than the $50,000. We increased an extra 0.2% into the budget. That was discussed in the June meeting, and that money was going to expand. So that's another $46,000 outside of PSERS and healthcare. So that's $96,000 put into the bucket that allows the administration to make recommendations. How they use that money is based on their recommendations to best use it.
Okay.
And the other thing you're missing is the timing. How long should we pause? If there's a need, if there's a visible need now, how long should we pause?
Until the state budget passes.
I understand. You said we don't have a contract with the union. Correct. This, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Kane, this community went multiple years without a new contract. Should we wait multiple years? 2 months, 3 months, 5 months? We see a need right now. We have to make decisions. Board has to pass these.
And again, I'm asking for a work session.
And it's not who's more important, the student or the special needs kid or the administrator. They're all 100% important. But you have to make choices. That's what a board does. They make choices based on the best information they have. We've already said 300 times that, yeah, it should have been at a committee meeting. It wasn't.
So then pause it and have a committee meeting.
But we're not going to negotiate with every. We can't negotiate.
Because
with
again, I don't think this is an appropriate chart, putting the special education below two separate
people. You might have
people.
a disagreement with the chart. You know,
Uniformity services is going to be compromised. Support for the principals is going to be compromised. All these things are going to be compromised. You're not in special education, Mr. Nardone. I am the only one probably here, except for Ms. Bibla, is that correct, that has been in special education for over 20 years.
And you
has
have a
anyone
perspective on
else?
that. and that's fine.
Well, that's why I'm saying this is going to hurt our students. You've already hurt our students. You've heard from parents today of how you've hurt the students, and now you're adding more layers. You're saying it's better, but as my expertise, working in, again, if you want to listen to my expertise, but apparently you know better, I believe this is the wrong chart for this district for special education. Personally, I do think you're making a bad decision here, board members. I have done this for over 20-some years. Please, I implore you to hold off and look at a different organizational chart. I do not agree with having a special ed supervisor reporting to two separate people when they have to create programs, when they have to look at data with one. The superintendent is the chief operating officer, and she should be the one helping with the programs with the special ed director, is my, again, expertise in the field.
So I want to share this because I held on to this information anticipating this question when you're saying that I don't care about special education students, and it's important that I continue to share. I'm very passionate about them. So I'm asking, and I have the answer, but I'm going to say this. How many students does the Crestwood School District currently enroll? As of May of 2025, the answer is 2,756. 43 students are outplaced in the Crestwood School District. That means that's 1.6% of our total enrollment is in a special education program outside of our district. So that means 98.4% of our population, our special education population, is being serviced here.
Can I stop you for a second?
564
I don't think you should name a percentage
students.
about special ed kids. I think that's really not
564.
appropriate.
I'm not giving any names because I was
No,
asked the
I think
last
you're putting
time.
them in a category of percentages.
564
Please let the
students.
superintendent.
564 students have been identified with a disability, and this is information that's on a Future Ready Index. This is public knowledge. I have no problem sharing it. So out of that, 43 students are placed. That's 7.6%. So again, when we say that we're shipping students off to somewhere else, that 1.6% of our current student enrollment as of May 25th is in an outside placement in special education. So I share that because,
I appreciate you sharing that.
I
do.
think that that's important because, this perception of what you just said that I know best. I've never said that. You can talk to administrators within this district. These teachers, I go to teachers and ask them for, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this program? That's not who I am. I'm a student-driven leader, and I also care about this staff input and their collaboration. So I just think it's important that you know that. Everyone knows that too.
I think from your perception, that's wonderful that it's a low number. One kid leaving this district is too many. When you look at an IEP, because I am in IEPs and I understand them, but clearly I'm not sure you understand them because, again, I'm in a lot of them over 20 years, so it's experience and time. One kid leaving this district is too many. If we cannot provide the support services, I get it, but least restrictive environment is your home district. These kids don't want to leave the district. They want to be with their neighborhood friends. They want to see, hey, high five as they're walking through. But guess what? They're not, that 1.6% are not. So I know you think it's a small number. One is too many, and I'll leave it
And
there.
I agree, and it's not a decision, that's done by myself or the special education supervisor. It is a team.
Okay.
The family is a part of that team.
It's not a superintendent meeting, right?
I
This
agree.
is a board
Thank
meeting.
you. It's not about.
Right, it's not. So I have to tell you how incredibly insulting your statistics were, again, to parents. And, I think that would be great for us to have a meeting later. But just so you know, your statistics are not including every single student that is not served at all because of your programs. Every single student that is told, I am sorry, we can't help you. Your statistics do not include that. And it is insulting.
100%. I agree. We are
It is
improving our
insulting.
child study program.
And I believe that my friend Matt
we are doing better.
has some numbers that he would like to share based on this. Yes? We share them?
It's not an agenda item.
I mean, I'm
responding.
You just took so much time to talk about these insulting statistics. And again, this is all based on the organizational chart and the money that you guys are spending on administration and not on classroom for students. So, I mean, you can say what you want, but I believe that is an issue that should be considered when you're voting on this chart and when you're voting on these positions. And I want Matt to share the numbers that he has, because I just saw them. And I also just really am very confused about the money that you say that you have for these positions. You said $90,000, you have a bucket of $90,000 for this position, but you told me that you said that the principal position is going to be around $100,000 plus the $20,000 extra that you're spending. So like, you approved $50,000 in June for this administration?
Approved
Okay, you said 50.
And the
Okay. Okay. All right. I like to have data before I make decisions. That's what I do in my job. And I would like to know what the state was giving us before I made decisions. But that was so insulting.
I didn't mean it to be insulting at all.
But it was.
No, and I brought that up because Ms. Romanishin was saying some things about me and, you know, about special education students, and I thought it was relevant to respond to her about what she hears and what's going on with the district. So my intention was not to be insulting. It was to provide the information that was asked to me in the past. And you're right, you know, our school psychologists, we've had multiple conversations. Our special ed supervisor and I've had conversations. Our child study program that we are focusing on. You know, that's important to us. And that'll be part of the director of curriculum's position, Mr. Sayer, myself, and everybody discussing those things to get better. So I just bring that because it was brought, you know, Ms. Romanishin had brought that up.
Just responding to what was asked of me, I've done several right to know requests, and you are correct. The number of outplaced students is 40 in the 40s, you said?
The number I gave today was for this school year, so it's 43.
43. So that's still close to double what it was in 2023 and 2024 based on the right to know requests. And what is incomplete about the data, and I understand it's not an agenda item, I will plan to bring this up at a future meeting, is despite that number staying relatively flat since the 2014-15 school year, from the total special education outplacement spend in 2014 and 2015 was about $147,000. In the 2022-23 school year, which was the latest data I had in my right to know request, that number was over $462,000, a 214% increase. So again, not an agenda item today, but I do plan to inquire with the board how our special education outplacement spend with a relatively flat number of outplaced students can increase over 200% in that time period. So I know it's not an agenda item. I don't expect an answer, but thank you. That's the complete data set.
Hello, Jill Copshow, Laurel Lakes. Quick question, just to clarify. John, you said 90-something was in the bucket?
Added.
Tommy, you said we budgeted for 50,000?
What was approved in June was 50.
Tommy's mistaken. In the board meeting, we raised it
But he is our
.2.
business manager, so.
Well, he follows the direction of the board and the superintendent. And if the board has the feeling that we approved 96,000, we go back and we talk about it, and we talked about the .2, which would be $46,000, and we already had 50,000 in the budget, that would be $96,000.
Okay, so 50 is part of that 96. And all of you are in agreement with what John says and not Tommy?
Well, they're saying the same thing. We did an increase, which gave us $50,000.
So we're 46 in the hole.
So, and then there was other money that was already voted with the 2% tax increase that John is saying gets us to the 90,000. So
So, all right, I have to explain in detail on this, because I did go back and watch the YouTube video to make sure I had it right. I watched the voting session at the end of June. We came into that meeting, on the agenda was a 2.5% tax increase. Rick asked to make a motion to reduce it to 2.2. Mr. Macri said he'd prefer we have some discussion before that happened. Lots of discussion was done. Rick early on said that budget included a $50,000 incremental expense for additional administrators. Later in the meeting, Mr. Webby asked, at 2.2%, are we structurally balanced, or what is the gap? And it was even, with the $50,000 in there. There was not 96, it was 50. And that is recorded.
So you're saying there's 50,000 available for the administrator?
50,000 in compensation, plus the additional PSERS and.
Plus the
Yeah, so
okay.
it's more like in the 60s.
Because I know coming at least, well, I'll just speak for myself, but I know that was the understanding that I had, that going to the 2.25% was going to make sure we had room for another administrator.
In that
It was
meeting,
also
we were
discussed
clear.
that 0.2 difference from 2.0 to 2.2 would be going towards the administration. That's what was discussed. Mr. Nardone discussed it, we discussed it. I finally went along with that budget under that premise. So that would be an additional $46,000 to the budget over the 2.0 budget.
Rick, what's your recollection?
So I'm not, I didn't go back and look, but my recollection was I requested an increase in the budget to allocate funds for another administrator. But the point that I want to make is it was not a position, a line item position at all. It was a chunk of money that we would have available for the management of the school district to allocate as they see fit during some period of time.
But that chunk of money is not covering what you're proposing to approve.
Probably not all of it, but a good part of it, because you have roll-up costs, right?
Well, I mean, you're giving two administrators 20,000, 21,000. You already gave 5,000 to Parentoni.
That's separate.
That's
Oh,
separate.
That's separate. Because that's coming, we're moving that position from the HR position to him. So that will come out of the HR budget.
Which one? The
The,
Parentoni?
yeah, the Title
Okay,
IX.
so that's
So that's
5,000. That's not
actually,
even- that's
that's
just a-
actually has,
Right.
completely
that's just
separate from this.
ridiculous. But I just don't understand how y'all can sit there and be okay with this when now we have two different versions.
You don't have two different
But
versions.
you do.
Well,
You-
John has his perspective as to how where that
He has
96 is.
a
We approved,
perspective
I think we came
or
in with a
facts?
$50,000 gap, right, at that budget?
With the 50,000 in and a 2.2 increase, we closed the gap completely.
Right.
But the one thing I'll comment on this is.
But now also remember that they raised the adequacy fund from 75 to 82%, banking on money from the state. So it was strange how that exact increase balanced the budget.
Go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, a budget is not gospel as to what will be spent. A budget gives a benchmark and guidelines to help guide organizations, school districts on their spending throughout the year. As new information comes in, we're getting more revenue, less revenue. We're having a good year in healthcare, a bad year in healthcare. That could affect spending decisions on many matters. So I want to make sure it's clear that the budget does not lock the district into spending decisions based on what's passed in June. Like Rick's example about the flight, that's a good one. The district, any organization is going, the federal government might be one exception, but beyond that, any other organization that sets a budget, it's there to help them, but not to lock them into what the spending is.
And there was no, to my understanding, not every dollar is allocated to a specific line item.
Well,
It's
when
a-
you hire
it's-
somebody at
it's
a
a-
salary, it's gonna be,
But it comes out of a bucket of money. It comes out of an aggregate budget. It doesn't come out of an allocated, we're allocating this for one thing and this for another thing. At
No.
least that's my experience in budgets. I mean,
But
I don't know how
planning
you
is
run your
essential.
household, but. Pardon?
so if you've been talking about this for, Mrs. Campbell, you said how long?
Oh,
At least 2 years.
at 2 years.
I would say 2 years is a fair.
Why has that
yeah.
not, why haven't we worked towards building that bucket up a little bit more?
Well, we have, though.
have.
I mean, we've been, well, no, I mean, you
So-
figure, I mean, when I started this, we were in the negative. When I came on this
I know,
board.
but-
But we were. I mean, we didn't have money to pay our bills. We were on the verge of heading down the road of bankruptcy. And I mean, we've been trying to steer this ship. We've been trying to bring back the teachers that have been furloughed, the programs that have been ended. I mean, those came first. We didn't talk administration till all those were completed. Safety was priority. We put that in front. But now it's to the point, and I've seen what's been going on. I mean, I was part of the person, I was part of the person.
Different districts too. I'm not saying it's not needed.
Right,
Definitely
and
not saying
so I
it's
mean,
not
it's not
needed, but-
priority, it's, we have put the other things first. And are there more things that need to be done? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not standing up here saying, oh, now we're good, job's done, guys.
Oh,
You know,
no,
it's, we're
definitely
far,
not.
So
we
what-
are
so
far,
your
we are
question-
far,
I'm
far,
actually
far
privy to
from.
one certain district, but,
So your question is why now?
no, I'm just saying the numbers are not matching. And how are we okay with that? Like, he's saying one thing, you're saying another thing. It was just.
I agree with you, that's disturbing, that's
Well,
not good
it's-
on
it
a
is
board.
disturbing.
I agree
Sitting
with
back
you.
here,
I
it's
totally agree
disturbing
with
that
you.
I have the president
Totally
of the
agree
school
with you,
board
yeah.
kind of arguing with the business manager. It's
I,
very
on
disturbing.
that, I agree with you 100%, yes.
So,
Yeah, I.
It was the
I-
consensus of the board that there's $96,000 allocated to that bucket of administration staff. How the business manager budgeted that and where he put the other money, that's his discretion, but the bucket is there, and as we allocate it. Tonight's meeting agenda, we're voting on $20,000, $21,000 added out of that administration budget.
true, but in the same, it's not on the agenda to hire one, but it's foreshadowing that we have to hire a principal at 100,000.
There's a need, yes.
And are we gonna have, like, you know, as the other said, we have the teacher's contract, we have the state budget. I'm just a
I
little
think-
concerned that you're doing this, but
It'll be the timing, right? It depend, you know, Mr. Benz and I
January
talked
or
about it. It may have to say partially budgeted on the agenda. It really just depends on the timing. Mr. Miller-Ovich brought that up too. So, you know, in the future, that will be listed as partial, or it depends on the timing, to be honest with you.
okay. Trust you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Ashley Lacey. I live at 805 Lakeview Drive here in Mountaintop. So this is, I guess, a comment with any, I guess, supporting comments that can be made. But I was an English teacher for 9 years before moving to this area. And I understand deeply the important work that admin does for our teachers, for our students, for the functioning of a district and a building. However, it is difficult to hear that the only real justification being given tonight for adding to the admin team is that our administrators are stretched thin and having to wear many hats, when our other staff members, our teachers, are also very stretched thin. They are also wearing many hats. They are also burdened. And again, this is not a discussion of who should have what. It's just a concern of adding to the budget, which when we moved here 2 years ago was a bit of a surprise when we encountered that the district that we had chosen to move to was all of a sudden making huge cuts to programming for our students. And to hear tonight the discussion, again, yes, things have been coming back, and we appreciate that. But my son is entering second grade, and he doesn't know that schools are supposed to have a librarian. That's really hard as a former English teacher. That's something that I, as a parent, have to supplement and help. And not every parent in our district is in the position to do that. There should be, I guess, more consideration of the optics of adding more admin when our teachers, again, are stretched thin. Our programs are still stretched thin. Our class sizes are still so big. So again, it's just, we talked a lot about perception tonight. The perception is really difficult for parents when they see that, especially parents who do have the option to leave, to send their students to other places. I'm a huge supporter of public education. I was a public school teacher. I want my children to go through public school, but I want to feel that that school is meeting their needs. And again, it's just, it's a concern. So I would, again, I urge the board, make a work session, make the public more aware of why is this administrator needed, because right now it seems like admin team is being put ahead of what our students need. I know people have mentioned wanting to be more engaged with students, but again, from the wonderful work that admins do, and I appreciate, I don't know if, as a teacher, I have seen admins impact students as much as, or have not seen admins impact students as much as their teachers, the programs they have access to. Those are the things that make a difference in our students' lives. All right, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Namey, 181 Kirby Avenue, Fairview Township. First and foremost, I want to thank each of you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My question is certainly not on the attack, because I think what you're beginning to develop and see here is there is certainly a reality to what your needs are. And again, reiterating, nobody is disputing that. I think the perception of how we are getting here is what's causing a little bit of the turmoil. So my question in moving forward with this, and not, again, beating the dead horse over and over again, is there a model to which we want to look like as a district with concern to an organizational chart? So, for example, in the future, do we plan on seeing additional bifurcation of job responsibilities which may improve the efficiency of the district? Where do we want to be in 5 years? And I think that's critical because it gives the public a very long look at where we want to be. It gives our faculty and our students a clear look at how progressive we want to be in certain areas. So is that something that we could involve in, or is that something that's already in progress that, you know, we're not aware of?
Thank you. And we actually talked about it earlier, that one of the job duties specifically for Mr. Sayer, because it's curriculum K through 12, we had a curriculum and a 5-year plan for education, right? And we haven't updated that plan. And we haven't had time to update that plan. And that's one of the first things that we want to do is do a 5-year plan. Specifically for education. I think that the staff has done a great job of, you know, adding AP classes, you know, bringing back programming, changing different types of programs that we have with the current staff. So it's not a negative on the staff that of whatever bandwidth that they had currently, but that is exactly one of the key components that I'm looking for, is to put a 5-year plan together in education. And, you know, we will be seeking feedback. I plan on having presentations and letting the community be a part of that, because that's so important. That's gotten lost over the last couple of years.
Correct. And you know, I think from a personal standpoint, and I'm sure it's a reality that you face, it takes the pressure off the board and administrations, where when you interface with the community, now all of a sudden it's very easy to explain, like, this is where we want to be. This is the path to which we're going to take. It might be an assistance to the business manager as well when we're taking a look at state funding versus the local funding and where we're going to be with that. So I think that would help the board. It would help, I believe, tremendously the community get a better understanding of where it is that we want to be. And sadly, that's probably just the perception that they're facing now when we're a week and a half away from school, and this seems like it's getting pushed, even though, you know, it's been clearly stated it's been worked on for quite some time. But with a 5-year plan, then you would have to, or that would actually be alleviated.
Yeah, so the education plan, I actually asked Mr. Benz last week, I believe, to put together a 5-year plan and to talk about that at the committee meeting for for a financial plan. I've done multiple presentations once a year regarding capital plan, and I've been doing updates with that on a regular basis, but we haven't had like a 5-year plan, and you know, I'm looking for an update from him to at least start talking about that again. So not only an educational 5-year plan, financial plan and, working together to do a capital plan. And we have to start doing that. And that's what we're going to start talking about very shortly in our committee meetings.
Do you foresee in the future that and I'm sure it's going to change because I think Mr. Nardone is on with what he said, that it does change. It's a very fluid type of chart, and it changes for a lot of reasons. How we deal with that change is critical. There's some departments that seem like it's an overlap of duties, or not an overlap, but a strange connection of duties, whether it's a technology department who's also running custodial. Sometimes it doesn't fit, and in our world today, technology is everything, and I can't imagine the workload that individual has. Are these things contemplated when you see some of them?
Yes, so Mr. Blanchard is helping, I would say, the district out, myself out by doing that custodial piece. Mrs. Campbell had mentioned, our focus has been, and my focus and my recommendations to the board has been students first.
Right.
Bring back the staff from furlough, bring back the programs, some safety initiatives that were going on, and setting those first before I even asked for an admin. So this is the first time in 3 years that I've asked for the board to consider an admin. We have discussed in 26, 27, I would love for Mr. Blanchard to be, back to IT, because that is just growing too, and all the Chromebooks and all of the online platforms that are required for our students to be successful. He needs to focus on that, and he's helping out the district in what he can and what capacity he has. But that is a future goal of 26, 27 to have a buildings and grounds. As much as I loved all those projects, Ms. Gagaris will tell you, she knows that those projects were led by me, and that's okay, and we're all trying to pitch in where we can, but at some point, it's too much. But yes, that is one of the areas we're looking to change in the future.
Okay, thank you.
As Mr. Nardone said, he met with a few of us board members, and we discussed longer range, not 5 years, but like he said, 2 to 3 years, what do we think the needs of the district are? And, what gets instituted will be up to the superintendent if we can come up with the funds to do that. But those discussions have been ongoing. Now, you're going to have a 45% turnover on the board in November, and who follows up on what? A lot of times when board changes, a lot of that stuff changes also. So yes, they have, and I know during interviews, we discussed expanding curriculum in the middle school next year. So those discussions are ongoing, but what transpires is going to change.
It's a complex matrix, and no one can ask for details within that 5-year plan, because 5 years, there's a lot that's going to change. But I think the general schematics of where we want to be and what the potential is for us to have new administrative heads, department heads that interface with faculty, that's a skeleton framework that I think is easily achieved. And I'm sure discussions have been made. I'm just curious to see, from a public statement of what your thoughts were. Mr. Nono?
Well, I was just going to say, I think these conversations are great. They didn't take place years ago because we were drowning in financial distress. So even having the opportunity to talk about what are we going to do with what money we have and what are the programs we're looking at in the next 2 or 3 years, 5-year plan, if you will, is a refreshing conversation from the ones that when I first got on the board, we were having when we were looking at the state to come in and help us out. So I think the board has done a phenomenal job. We're not on the surface yet, and it'd be real easy to raise the taxes to the maximum, but that's never the answer because it just pushes the balloon in one area, and the taxpayers, we'd have all taxpayers here, right? So you got to look at everything, but I think the conversation is a healthy one, and I'm glad we're able to talk about it because we have a little bit of money. with which to improve both the student experience and the burden on the administration.
My last thought, and I'll let you go. In that org chart, and I probably haven't looked at it as well as I should, is there a designee who is technically the pit bull, so to speak, for working with the state regarding a change in how we're getting funded? Or is that something that we cannot control, whether it's, is there someone that's there that is the specific grant writer? Anything of that nature that eases certain programs because we may pick up, funding where we didn't think we could pick it up, or grants.
So, so I'll compound this a couple different ways. So Mr. Sayer is the federal programs coordinator in conjunction with the business office. That's like your Title 1, 2, 3, 4. He does all the reporting with the business office. All of the non-competitive grants under PCCD grant that I was doing with the board. Every time a grant would come up, we would discuss the allocations of where we wanted to put that. PCCD grant is typically used for, you can use it for safety, mental health, things like that, and that was discussions with the board. And I filed those grants and all the FER reports, which is your financial reports. I've now soon will transition that over to Mr. Benz, and he'll be doing all of those reports. Mr. Benz and Mr. Dean, Jack Dean, when he was here, they were the ones that were able to secure the grant for the roof project. So as these grants become available, I encourage the community. The board has been great. They share those grants too. To file for those grants as they come available. Sometimes some of these grants, based upon our demographics in our area, we don't qualify, but we try. Mr. Benz actually just did one for stadium handrail, so we are trying our best with the grants, but we don't have a specific grant writer. Mr. McCree and I met with a company today to talk about sponsorships on a higher level instead of we try to do the small one out here with Marquee, but we're looking for bigger sponsorships, corporate sponsorships to help offset some programming too. So we just had that meeting. So we are actively looking for sponsorships, but long answer that I gave you, but shortly, we don't have a grant writer, no.
Okay. All right, thank you very much for your help.
Hi, sorry, I have one more question. One other thing I noted on here was that the School Safety Act 55, Mr. McCree, he's only under the secondary campus. Why wouldn't he be under both directors? If we're going to split positions like this, I would think that the safety coordinator should be part of both, under both the elementary schools and the high schools.
I had him based upon the interactions with the high school. I have him underneath there, not to put everything under both of them. But he is still a district-wide employee for the Act 55.
No, I understand, but safety would come into play for both the secondary campus and the elementary campus. You did that to the special ed supervisor, but you didn't do it to the safety person.
Correct. Yes, that's correct. My recommendation is to have the Act 55 report directly to Mr. Gorham. That is where I had it originally, actually. It was under Mr. Gorham with Mr. Kupitz, so that was just not a change from the prior.
Okay. My point is, that, again, I think this should be put on hold to reassess this whole thing because I don't think that's appropriate in case there's safety issues for an elementary school. Then there's no direct contact to the director of the elementary school. Again, I urge the members to put this on pause and let's do this correctly.
Ms. Bibla? Motion.
I'll make a motion to approve items 1 through 13. I so move.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Champy,
Yes.
Mrs. Chaitora Zaguri,
Yes.
Mr. Webby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy.
I'll abstain from items 5, 6, 7, and 8, and yes to the rest.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Nardone,
Yes.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
and Mr. Macri.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Moving on, co-curricular, Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. I will be asking for approval on items 1 through 6, but under item 3, letter C, that name should be Paula Sapak, not Paul. So if we could just, that was just a little typo, if we can make that correction. But that being said, are there any questions from the board on these items? From the public? Nope, seeing none, then I make a motion and ask for a second to approve items 1 through 6.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Champy,
Yes.
Mrs. Chaitor Zaguric,
Yes.
Mr. Webby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Nardone,
Yes.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Macri.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Physical plant, Mr. Webby.
I'll be seeking a motion and a second to approve item number 1 for physical plant. Any questions from the board? Questions from the public? So as far as the item number 1, I motion that we move that through to voting. Seeking a
Second.
Mrs. Bibla,
Yes.
Mr. Champy,
Yes.
Mrs. Chaitor Zaguric,
Yes.
Mr. Webby,
Yes.
Mrs. McCurdy,
Yes.
Mrs. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Nardone,
Yes.
Mr. Boone,
Yes.
Mr. Macri.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Our next regular meeting is on Thursday, September 18th, 6:30 here in the Media Center. I make a motion and seek a second for adjournment.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.